All right, so our first review of the day is going to be for Shazam. Shazam: Fury of the Gods. It is a sequel to the first Shazam movie, starring Zachary Levi, who's playing the titular character here. He's playing the Shazam character. You also have Asher, who's playing the Billy Madsen. He's playing the younger version of him, Asher Angel. So here in this sequel, which I very much liked the first Shazam movie. I was a big fan of it. I think it's one of the better DC movies there that they have. Kind of a big surprise. Didn't do incredibly well at the box office, so it was kind of, kind of up in the air whether it would get a sequel, but I'm glad it did. So as this movie, does it live up to par with the first movie? In some ways, yes, and then in other ways, no. I think the first movie is still better, but this one, I don't think is too far behind. So the setup of this one is, if you remember the end of the last movie, all of the foster kids, they all ended up getting powers. He blessed them with the powers of Shazam. So when they say it, they all become adults, except for, I guess, the one girl, because the one girl, I don't think, she doesn't look any different. The Mary girl.
Yeah, Grace. Yeah, Mary, who in this film is played by Grace Caroline Curry. They explained it in the behind the scenes. It's where Mary, because originally the older version was played by a different actor, and in this one, I guess they just thought that Grace Curry had it kind of aged more into an appropriate age where she is basically just the same age as her superhero counterpart, which I don't mind it because Grace Curry in that costume, delicious. I mean, sorry.
Yeah. So they all turn into, Shazam. They all have the powers. Now in this one, they're trying to figure things out. You know what I mean? It's basically what it would be like if you did give kids powers. They fucking some shit up. They're trying to do good, but they're messing everything up. They can't even handle basic superhero task of, hey, save people from the bridge. That's like superhero 101.
I mean, they did save the people. Just not the bridge.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, it should be an easy task when it's, how many of it is? It's like six of them?
It's like
6 of them?
S-H-A. Yeah, there's 6 of them.
So it should be easy.
Six of them, and it should be. However, these are also children.
Yeah. So they're trying to work together as a team. Billy Madsen is trying to keep them together, but, they want to kind of go off and, kind of live their lives, try to do their own thing. Especially, you have the character, Freddie Freeman, who's played by Jack Dylan Grazer. People know he was in It. And he, is like, he enjoys being the superhero thing, kind of going to do his own thing. And there's a little bit of a fear from Billy of kind of losing this family that he gained, being a guy who's kind of been in and out of the foster system. So there's a little bit of that. But a big villain, the big foe of this movie is you have Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu, who play the Daughters of Atlas. They have a conventional kind of evil person kind of motivation. They want to come to Earth, do their whole thing, kind of take over. It's all about recreating the Tree of Life so they can create their world again because their world was destroyed. So, kind of basic evil villain kind of, motivation for them. So they have to face off against them. You also have a new addition to this, including Lucy Liu and Helen Mirren. You also have Rachel Ziegler, who people know she was in West Side Story, who I thought she was excellent in West Side Story. I thought she did a very, very good job in that movie.
Same. Probably should have been nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah. And so she plays Athena, who is another daughter of Atlas as well. So with this movie here, I was a little concerned from the trailers because I thought that maybe they just thought that bigger was going to equal better, more money, more effects, more explosions, things like that. You do kind of have that here, but I think they still keep kind of the core element of the family. And it's funny. It's really good how they parallel the family of the Shazam and then also the family of the Daughters of Atlas and how they kind of go back and forth, and then how they also are having their bickering moments where, the Shazam family. So I thought that was kind of a good parallel there. I thought there was some good humorous moments here, even from someone like Jimon Hansu, who returns, who's the wizard who gave Billy the powers to begin with. You kind of do also have that here. I think he does some good comedic bits. It's light kind of goofy humor, family friendly humor. Something that I think, this is what kind of maybe Ant-Man and the Wasp wanted to do, Quantumania wanted to do, but kind of failed at doing, of like, the family kind of element, the family kind of core of a, family superhero movie. I think this accomplishes that, and this does a better job at that than maybe something like Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Some of the, effects here, like maybe you've seen the trailer, there's a dragon that looks pretty good. I think that looks pretty cool. They do some good stuff there. I'm going to pass it around, let people give their thoughts. Dusk, what were some of your thoughts on Shazam here?
Let's see. I agree with you. I did enjoy the original Shazam, and it actually didn't do too bad at the box office. Actually, one of the few successor stories at that time, because Warner Bros. Was going through a tough time. Batman vs. Superman hadn't exactly gone the way they wanted. The Justice League was coming up, and that hadn't also panned out as well as they had hoped. So here comes this little movie, Shazam, and it felt like a breath of fresh air, being like, okay, it's taking itself still kind of serious, but it also had good little moments of comedy that was a good levity for those moments. And I thought the story for that one was actually really solid. It had a fairly simple story, and it balanced on having a pretty good overall moral story about Billy learning to accept family, learning to let the people in, learning to just follow himself as they follow him himself. And I thought that one scene with his mother when he finally does find her is actually a really good scene in an otherwise kind of comedic moment. And they don't poke fun, they don't drop it. It's an actual complete serious scene from beginning to end.
Yeah, they let the emotion sit and let you stew in it during that scene. And if you told me that I was going to cry during Shazam, just looking at the trailers, I would have laughed in your face.
Yeah.
But that moment still gets me. And something that I think Sandberg does really well here is you get more of the emotional beats with Billy and with his family, and they hit just as hard, especially in his interactions with his foster mom, who's played by Marta Milans.
I do think that the moments with his foster family are the best parts. The story, it's basically generic. It's basically Justice League light. What are they doing on the planet? Gotta terraform it. Why are we terraforming it? 'Cause. There's not really a big reason on why these the sisters, the daughters of Atlas, who all of them are not actual daughters of Atlas according to Greek mythology, but who cares? They're playing loose, fast and loose with the Greek mythology since Wonder Woman. It doesn't matter. They really have. They've just been playing fast and loose, so it doesn't really matter. I think this time around, I think the effects are pretty good overall for the most part. I think Zachary Levi is does still a good job playing a funny kind of character, and I think Asher Angel actually deserves a lot of. Man, he had a growth spurt too, because that kid is
Puberty hit that motherfucker like a truck.
It was
it's kind of like when Aaron Johnson reprised his role in Kick-Ass 2, and they had to constantly hide how jacked he got in between movies.
It was hilarious. No, it's the same way. Like, he's got shoulders now. He's got the broad shoulders. I'm like, dang, son. Good for you. But yeah, no, I think him as Billy Batson. Actually, there wasn't enough Asher Angel, honestly. And I thought that the first one had a nice balance between Zachary Levi and his just regular Billy. There was a little too much focus. I think that's my biggest problem with this movie. There's a little too much focus on the comedy aspects of this movie. There's a little too much. Not allowed to let things sit. The motivations of the villains feel kind of too loose to really feel like that big of a threat, or why are you even doing this? Like, I understand your motivation, but there's so many other ways. You have all this power. You can go all these different ways, especially with how the movie ends, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess we could have solved that problem a different way. And I just don't think this feels more like a Freddie Freeman movie than actually does a Billy movie.
Yeah, I agree.
You're kind of right on the money there, because I feel like a majority of the time spent with the Shazam kids in their human forms is with Jack Dylan Grazer, who I think he steps up beautifully to that bigger role, especially when you get his interaction with Rachel Zegler, because their chemistry is goddamn electric. Every time the two of them were on screen, I was completely engaged with this movie. Where I think this film slightly improves on over the first film, because I do really like that first movie, but I think Mark Strong just isn't given enough to chew on with the character that he with Dr. Savannah that he played in the first movie. And here, I feel like you have actors like Helen Mirren, like Lucy Liu, that are taking parts that are very thinly written, and they are adding some gravitas to it. You see it in the trailer, this meeting that Shazam has with Hespero, who is Helen Mirren's character. And she dresses him down in a way that was really intimidating, especially with an actor of Helen Mirren's caliber.
Yeah, I mean, I think they try their best to add to, not much dimension, with their roles. I mean, this movie in general, I think it's like, okay, you kind of fill in the blanks, for yourself. It's like the stuff with the family. It's like, okay, we're going to do a little bit of that. I mean, you can fill in the rest by yourself. I guess that's what the movie seems like what it wants you to do, kind of. It's like you get the basic setup here, Billy's got attachment issues, blah, blah, blah. Let's kind of get through that to get through the emotion stuff, To Dusk's point, I do feel like, feels like more of a Freddie Freeman movie than an actual Billy Madsen, Shazam movie there. And because out of all, when they're their, younger selves, when they're their original selves, he's the guy, he's really the kid you spend the most time with. And that's kind of one of the, a complaint, even though Jack Dylan Grazer does a great job, it is that you would like to see some of the younger kids, kind of more interact again and, have them. It seems like they're, it's a lot of time is more spent on them in their superhero forms than their kid forms. So I thought, that was kind of a little bit of a downgrade from the other movie. Also, the humor, some jokes don't always work, don't always land. It's kind of the style there. But I think for the most part, it's cute, it's sweet. You know what I mean? A lot of the humor that they do there that I do think does work. What some of the kind of the major downsides for this movie for you all?
See, one downside for me is I don't think Zachary Levi and Asher Angel are playing the same character. Because when it's Asher on screen, he feels much more mature. He feels like he is really contemplating his place in the world. Because a big thing in his arc is that Billy is getting older and he's scared that he'll be kicked out because he's aging out of the foster system. And Zachary Levi just kind of plays him like a big dumb goof, which doesn't really fit Asher's portrayal of the character.
Yeah, they feel like Two-Face. They feel like two different sides of the same person, where, ironically enough, the kid is the more mature one, trying to come to terms with everything that's happening. And then as soon as Zachary Levi, he's like, all right, gang, we got to do this and this. And I'm like, who is this?
I felt like Levi was playing Billy Batson as dumber than what Asher Angel was playing him.
Yeah.
Which is a critique I had about the first movie to some extent, but here it really sticks out, especially...
It really ratcheted it, though. Before
especially in comparison to the other Shazam kids, especially because Freddy's played by Jack Dylan Grazer and Adam Brody. Eugene is played by Ross Butler and Ian Chen. DJ Catrona and Jovan Armand play Pedro. And, of course, Faith Herman and Megan Good play Darla, who I think she is probably the standout, at least for the kind of just cinnamon roll personified, because she is so delightful every time she's on screen. And, of course, Grace Curry is playing Mary, who is both her in regular and superhero form.
Yeah, I agree with the whole, like Asher Angel, Zachary Levi, because he plays him almost like he's like Zachary Levi is Shazam, like he's Homer Simpson or something. Like he's so stupid, like he doesn't even know how to say like the wisdom of Solomon. He's like Saruman, Salamander,
Man.
Yeah, like what the fuck is like, bro? You ain't the like.
It was a good joke the first time, but then it kind of grated on me.
Yeah, it's just which
I think some of the jokes here are weaker than others, but one that really stood out was they go into the Rock of Eternity, and they have a magic sentient pen that's named Steve.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the funniest bits in the movie where you have Helen Mirren reading this note that's dictated by all of them.
Yeah, yeah, that was kind of a good moment there, and a lot of the magic stuff here is fun. You know, like when they go to like the all the doors and things like that. Like that's kind of fun there. And when you mentioned like when they're in the superhero personas, Megan Good does a really good job at because she's playing the younger version out of all of them.
Yeah.
Because the one she's playing, like
Yeah.
that little girl is probably like what 10 or like 9.
I think she was 9 in the first movie. I think now she's like maybe 11-ish.
Yeah, so she's the youngest one out of everybody, and she kind of really does play the youngest one out of, you know what I mean? She does play it kind of like just in her facial expressions, her comments. I think she does a pretty good job. Like she's a big standout when they're in their superhero personas. And then you have the parents there, who the parents also, wish I see a little bit more of the parents actually, because they're fun. I like the parents. I like the dad.
Yeah,
Parents are great, actually.
Yeah, the parents are Rosa and Victor, played by Cooper Andrews, who was on The Walking Dead, and Marta Milans.
Yeah. And yeah, I like them. I think that, I wish I saw a little bit more of them. I think they're fun. They do do a little bit more towards the end. But yeah, I kind of like them. I like, a lot of this cast together. I think they got good chemistry together and they work well together. Which is
the cast is not the problem. It's really strong, actually.
Yeah. But the major issue, Zachary Levi is him playing. It's just like, two different notes. It's like when Vince Vaughn was in Freaky and then he was playing like the teenage girl, and it's like, I don't think you're on the same page as this other girl that's playing this character. Like you're just playing a stereotypical teenage girl, here. And the way that Zachary Levi Shazam is playing is like he's just a spastic, almost younger than a little bit, like almost 14, 15 than what Billy is now. Yeah,
and it's weird because in the first movie that wasn't the case. In the first movie, Billy was younger, and so when Zachary Levi was acting as if he actually had powers now, and so he was being like quick and abrasive in this, and he actually was lower on the notes. He wasn't dialed as high. That he was like, oh, so it made sense. Like, oh, he's just a superhero guy, but he's still figuring it out. By this one, you're like, okay, we're gonna get a slightly more mature, but he's still having fun with it being a superhero. No, it's like they cranked it up. No, we need to have him to 11, and and it creates a juxtaposition, and it doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
Until the very end, when they finally, it's like, okay, we'll
the very end is when I think Levi really steps up and matches the same energy that Asher Angel brings to the part of Billy.
Yeah. And speaking of the ending, it does have your superhero ending, type thing. Especially like where it's the hero that's fighting the main villain, and then the army of the little creatures or something that fights while the other main villain fights the other main hero. It does have that in here. I think it works kind of better in here than I've seen in other stuff. Like I always talk about that in Marvel movies. Like you always have that, like the army fighting and then always the main bad guy and all that stuff. I think it works. I think what they do here is a little bit better. It is they do a lot of product placement in here. You'll see it, some big product placement, but they're working in well.
There is one that is glaring, but I think it works so well, especially just with the character that introduces it.
Yeah. So
I'm not gonna say who.
Yeah, but they kind of have a funny way to kind of work it in, even though it's kind of shameless. It's the way they work it in is kind of funny. And also there is 2 stingers. There's a mid-credit and the after-credit one, so stay after if you want to see that. The thing is, now that Gunn is taking over DC, I don't know if these credit scenes were changed or these were already there or what. That's the thing. So I don't know. So I don't know if it is pointless to see it or not pointless.
I think one of them is probably going to end up mattering more than the other, and that's because in that whole announcement that Gunn had about the new DCU, he said that Shazam is a character that was so kind of really far outside of the normal DC universe that he can kind of stand on his own. So I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
it means whatever they want it to mean.
Yeah,
let's be honest, they don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. So go around. Final thoughts. Give your rating. Dusk.
Yeah, I think we've covered pretty much everything I can cover without getting into spoils. Overall, The effects are good. I thought the costume design was pretty good. I preferred the costume design in the first one. I noticed there was a bit some of the extra tassels or design, the Greek designs that he had on it. It wasn't on this one, and a few of the others. But besides that, I thought the CGI was pretty good for what it was. I thought everyone in casting was good. Everything that they did was good. I liked the parent characters. I liked the kids. Megan Good is 41 years old, and she can act like an 11-year-old, and it's amazing. Megan Good is 41, and she looks that good and can act that young. Yeah, Megan Good is great.
Black don't crack.
Shit. I know, but honestly, we didn't even mention one of the other important characters here, but he's good too. Overall, I'm a bit torn because on the one hand, I do like everyone's performance for what they're given. I think everyone does the best they can with the material. I just felt they deserved kind of a better script and a better dialogue, especially like just having a better plan and more cohesive plan for the villains would have been better, especially for these actors like Lucy Liu and Helen Mirren and Rachel. Sorry, I'm blanking on her name. Rachel
Zegler.
Zegler. I think they did deserve a bit more better material, and the focus being kind of as mostly on Freddy and not on the family as a whole. I think Billy, does take away a bit more. Although I do think, like Nick said, Jack Dylan Grazer does do a good job stepping up to that role. I've never not liked him. I've always found him good, even in the first movie. I will also say the ending does not drag like the end. If I had any major complaints about that first movie, was that last battle scene was like 20 minutes long. It's like, come on, wrap it up, B. This one, at least the way they handle it better. You're a little bit more involved in it, even though it does almost border on staying too long for its welcome. It does eventually wrap up, and I think overall, I enjoyed this movie more than I didn't, but not as much, unfortunately, as the first one. But I think the characters and the actors kind of keep me here, where otherwise I would have been kind of bored. So because of that, I'm gonna have to just give it a solid. What was below tune in again? Stream it. Yeah, I'm just gonna give it a solid stream it. You can chill, relax at home, watch this. There's really no reason to go see this at the theaters. I think it'll be a good stream it.
Yeah. All right, Nick.
See, I'm a huge fan of the first Shazam movie. I really love what David Sandberg did, especially just because of the time it came out. It was a breath of fresh air for the DC universe. It was away from a lot of that doom and gloom, dour, fuck color, because that's for children. And the movie ended up being a really incredibly well done origin tale. I thought Asher Angel and Zachary Levi both play the two sides of Billy Batson beautifully. I think the emotional beats are super strong in that first movie, especially the kickoff of the third act when he finally meets his mother. It's a tearjerker and it works. And here, I think in some ways, I like this movie a little bit more than the first one. I think the emotional beats with Billy Batson interacting with his family, especially his parents and his foster siblings, I think that in some ways that works better than in the first movie when it's all the kids getting to interact. I think that the adult performers for all the kids' superhero forms, I really dug their chemistry because we didn't really get to see that in the first movie. I thought Helen Mirren, Lucy Liu, I think they giving A+ performances with B- material with the Daughters of Atlas, but they were still entertaining to watch, even if their plan is really convoluted and kind of doesn't really make sense. But despite all of that, I think the biggest problem I have is with Zachary Levi and Asher Angel. I just don't think their performances match up, and it feels like they're playing two completely different characters. One being much more immature, being way dumber than the other. And also because of the state of the DC universe, I don't know how much of this is even going to matter, even though Shazam does kind of stand up on his own. And in one of the post-credit scenes, I think they might be leaning towards keeping Levi around. I had a great time with this movie, but because of all those circumstances, I don't know if this is worth going out to a theater. I would give this a very, very, very high stream it because I had such a good time with this movie where I was kind of expecting it to be a little bit lackluster, especially because Warner Brothers is kind of shooting themselves in the foot by spoiling their own movie.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would give it Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I'd give it a kind of a strong, kind of high stream as well. I had a good time with it. Like I said, I don't think it's better. It is as good as the first film. I think the first film, there was just a sense of, kind of, I think it was more focused on the characters there, more stronger focus there, more tighter than this movie is. Even though there are some good elements in the movie, like we named, like the chemistry between the cast. I think the villains themselves, I think, they do good with the material that's given there, and there are some good moments with them and some good funny moments. I think the humor here is also, decent, even though if there are some bad spots in it. Would I like to see another Shazam movie if they do another one? Yeah, sure. I think I would like to see this cast return if they, happen to do another one. It depends, I guess, on the box office of this movie. I don't know what the debut of it is as of yet, because we're doing this on Friday, so I don't know what the debut of it is yet. But yeah, so if they do another one, I wouldn't mind seeing it. Overall, I think this movie, is something that maybe you're not going to really rush out to see. I had a decent time watching it in the theater. Like the point of Nick mentioned, as well as Dusk. Yeah, Zachary Levi and Asher Angel. That seems like the biggest disconnect in the whole thing of like the way they're playing the performance, of the way they're kind of showing him. Because from what I know of Shazam, I mean, when he is the character, he's not stupid. It's just he's just naive. He's just he's a big kid. That's all he is. He's not really just stupid at all. So the way I know the character, but yeah. So for me, I would just give it a high stream it for me. Whereas the first one, I think we gave it. If we did review it on the site, I think we gave it a high tune in or strong tune in there.
In comparison.
Yeah, so that was Shazam! Fear of the Gods. So if you want to discuss the spoilers, we can real quick. So spoiler talk real quick. It's just real quick.
Yeah, very, very, very small spoiler.
So there's two stingers. There's a mid-credit stinger and an end-credit stinger. The mid-credit stinger is we see the two characters. Hey, what's going on there, Brandon?
Oh, what's up, Brandon?
Yeah, we're doing Shazam spoilers. I don't know if you've seen Shazam. Have you seen Shazam?
I have not, but go ahead.
Okay, you don't care? Okay.
All right. So there are two post-credit stingers for Shazam! Fury of the Gods. The first one, we cut back to Amelia Harcourt and John Economos, both Steve Agee and Jennifer Holland, sup girl, reprising their roles from Peacemaker, and they're going to recruit Shazam for the Justice, and he doesn't let them finish before agreeing to join the Justice Society.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, really? And the scene kind of ends with Levi riffing on different names because it's two different organizations, both with the name Justice, and he name drops the Authority, which was one of the projects announced by James Gunn at during his little DCU announcement. So that is kind of making me lean towards them keeping Levi around, especially because they're teasing him for the Authority, and if he is going to be a part of that in some way.
Yeah.
I just can't see that character being in the Authority, not in this timeline.
And then the end credit stinger is Mark Strong. You see him in prison again. And then they're setting up potentially him coming back for a third movie. If that happens, they're going to maybe position him as a villain there.
Yeah, and his interaction with Mr. Mind, who is once again voiced by David Sandberg, and they have a funny bit. It's like, I've been in the cell for 3 years. Look, it takes me a long time to get places. I have to slither around.
Yeah. Yeah, so you kind of have that. That's what's setting up. And then also, a big cameo shows up in Shazam that scared the fuck out of me, because when they played that music, I almost jumped. I jumped out of my seat because they did that when Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it was kind of.
Yeah.
Second that riff happens. Fuck.
Yeah. So she shows up, which they teased in the movie because Billy Batson's got a huge crush on Wonder Woman, but of course everybody, I mean, it's Wonder Woman, of course.
Which fair.
So yeah, and they do a funny bit with that in the movie, like he's dreaming about her, and then Jimon Hansu's face is on Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman's body. Like that's a funny like little joke they do there. That's kind of funny. But yeah, so she shows up, and then what I mean, she brings him back to life and everything. So that's like the big cameo that shows up in this movie, which I think they already kind of spoiled already. I think they.
They straight up showed that in one of the new TV spots for it.
Yeah, so so they trying to get as many people in the theater as possible.
Warner Brothers don't give a fuck about this movie.
Yeah, just like with Black Adam, like they just spoiled. Like, yeah, Superman's gonna be in it, and Superman's at the end. It's like, okay, I mean, they're not even trying.
Which for me, when the studio is spoiling shit about the movie, that's usually a giant red flag. But I guess this movie is the exception because I ended up really liking Shazam.
Yeah, that was decent. And it's because Wonder Woman, she's one of the few heroes that actually has a theme. Like so many heroes don't have like their own like iconic theme. I think her theme is, it's her. Like when you hear that theme, like it's like, oh, that's the Wonder Woman thing. Like how like when Black Panther, when the Wakandas show up, like they got the do 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 oh, that's the Wakandas. They got their like that's their theme. So that's when he shows up. So it's rare that a lot of nowadays have their own like theme, and she's got hers. So I was like, oh shit, okay. But I wasn't. I mean, I dropped my damn popcorn almost. I was like, God damn, that shit out of me. So there we go. So that's what happens in Shazam: Fear the Gods. It's the two stingers there, mid credits and end credits scene. So that's what if you want to stay or not stay, that's what you're kind of missing out on. So that was Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Spoiler talk. Wrap that up.